What's going on, guys? Time for another YouTube recap. Unfortunately, I just zoomed into the old X here, and I totally posted the wrong picture, even though I called the green trade here, and I must have slid over my share X on the wrong picture. Didn't even notice. I was trying to go so fast because we were teaching and trading and Twittering, Xing all at the same time here. So posted this nonsense right here, and it was supposed to be a long NQ trade. So I said, as long called NQ, easy green zone, 70 points, mid 44.62, called the NQ green trade. Yeah, that's the wrong picture, so ignore that. We'll go over that in a second here. I called that one actually here. We can go grab it, bring it on over. If it even lets me. I don't think it even lets me. No, we'll get to it in a second. Long story short, we had the NQ long here, so we'll get into that. And another one we had was the ES underneath. And I really wanted to get to the 50 SMA daily. That was the call. And the short, like we said, is under yesterday's close. And as we commented here, per the short call, it's only under yesterday's close trending, and only then trending confirmation. Pay attention to the verbiage here, guys. Not just short and hope for the best, and it's going to guarantee everything under yesterday's close with trend confirmation is what we're going to get down to the 50 SMA. Now, we almost got there, so that's still a huge win. Still a really big green trade there, because you should be taking profits as we go down. So let's get into it. We're going to cover that green trade on the Qs here. Of course, we're not on the saved set. There it is. Holy moly. Bear with me. Chemo brain, cancer patient stuff. All right. We're getting it together. So we had an algo in pre-market. Okay. High low of the pre-market algo is right here. Fib the box. Okay. Golden pocket right here, as you can see, in the GP. Okay. Now, the green zone was the trade I called on the 70 points long to the green zone. Posted the wrong picture on Twitter. But once we were inside the fib box, which is right here, we said any long hold of that, which was the open, and you can see pretty good MACD setting up here and a really nice RSI setting up, all higher lows and higher highs. And we said anything long to the green zone. Okay. So we opened up, held really nicely right here, that 458.48, which is just the bottom of this algo. That is the only level. See, 458.48, bottom of the fib box. Opened up, held that support also with this purple fuchsia line, which is pre-market open. So when the actual pre-market open happens, I like the pre-market open line as a general direction. Now, the long call was just a simple fib play, and we actually made a secondary long call to fill that fib up today. So let's take a look at that confirmation. Higher low, higher highs on the RSI, really tiny sell wave, and we had already been beaten out on the buy wave. What does that mean? Well, if we stretch the MAC out a little bit, the MACD histogram was showing us some really strong waves along with that perfect RSI. This strong wave right here is the one in question. So we had a small wave and then a beat out wave, number 2 right here, and then formed into a much larger one. Okay. Despite the data snap back and forth, which again was something that we had actually traded live. I'll get the video from my partner here, and you can see me trade live through the ES. I think it was like 23 points on this dump right here in ES. We'll put that up as well, maybe in a short. So the long from here was literally just that fib box, and long to the golden pocket, which is halfway point and top channel, right? 61.8 to 50 fib. So if you use those Fibonacci points, the only ones I use inside are 38.20, 50, 61.8. I call it the golden pocket. Now that long green right there was 70 points on NQ, nice little $4,400 move. That was a beautiful confirmation like we just covered with the MAC and the RSI. Now, what is the other big precursors to the long out of the gate was the volatility index, okay? The standard deviation was showing that the volatility index was up into the +3. And again, as you cover this channel with me here, we are huge on standard deviation volatility index when she starts getting high, right? Cooking into the 20s here. I'm really big on gaps. So if you guys see this one, I'll give out some freebies here. This was another tall tale sign where the VIX had room to come to the downside to fill the gap that was left near end of day yesterday. So when we had the super extension into this blue level right here of the deviation +3, we had a good indication that the VIX was going to break away and just head to the downside. You can see this by the RSI getting a little bit of weak and the MACD showing you some really, really strong divergence and finally giving up there at the open. We didn't trade any of the pre-market because it just didn't look good. We just traded that out of the gate long. Now, this gap right here on the volatility index became a magnet, right? So we opened up, we started gapping down. So there's another gap right here, right? Gap down, open, gap down here, gap down here, gap down here. We had a ton of gaps today. And this is why I said wait for the retrace and for when the VIX to come back online like this, chase down the gap fills, right? Just like it did for yesterday. So here's that first gap fill. It chased the magnet down. So the volatility index went down from the pre-market all the way down to chase the gap. That gap had filled, so we're no longer worried about it. And then it found a base right about at 20, just a little bit less. Came back up. Higher low function, higher low RSI, cross MAC, bullish VIX after about 11:30 for confirmation, right? So that's going to cause the market to go down and the VIX to chase down some of these gaps, right? Well, if we put a level up here, we didn't get that last gap, but we chased down 3 others or 2 others here. Well, with the one yesterday, it was 3. So 1, 2, and then a miss on this one, and a miss on this one, and a miss on this one. So we got 3 left to the upside on the volatility index. So we came up beautifully. Another gap that was filled here. Another gap that was filled here. So those don't matter. But when we come into the volatility index giving us the confirmational setup, that's where I was calling out that trade under yesterday's close on the SPY. And these gaps and this setup on the VIX needed to sell off really bad here in the morning first before we could get that move, right? And I was still predominantly short, told my chat to stay short. I told them not to worry about over yesterday's close. I have to lean short on this one. Big time as well. Because of the Fibonacci of yesterday's body. So what we had here was yesterday's close. It's the 100 Fib, and this was the over under. In my private Discord, this is what I told everybody here at 552 6 cents. This is our over under level, which means a confirmational watch over or a confirmational watch under is the biggest watch for price action movement. Now, when we lost yesterday's close, and it was up here when I told my crew that it was gone up here, and I was like, I'm still leaning to the short side. I don't believe in the long one bit. I believe we have to come down to the 50 SMA daily in the gap. That was the original plan. We got so close, but the short was still there, and I'm still happy about it. So what do we see here? Well, we have tons of confirmation, one being the volatility index saying we need to relax in the morning, which shot the market up very slowly on this deadly little grind. And once we had came back down again, this is yesterday's close, 55206. We needed to be underneath there to trend down to the target of the 50. That was the whole call. And let's check the confirmations now in what you would be able to take a trade with right here to the short bias, like we said. And like I commented on that post, you don't go short until it's perfectly ready. The confirmation, right? You don't just short right here when we were talking about it, just hope for the best, get blown out at the top because the volatility index is telling you the short is still way far out into the day. You don't do any guesswork. Let's look at the confirmations here, okay? So we had the high day push, came back down and held around yesterday's close, the 100 EMA, a little pop back up. Okay, perfect. Lower high scenario sets up. Let's look at our indicators. Lower high and breaking on the RSI. Right here would tell you that the RSI is ready to crack back down and at least have a potential chance to retrace down to the bottom side. The MACD is also crossed, gave you a false buy wave at the MAC center and had continued here. So we have really good confirmation after noon central. Here, right at the tail end where it broke yesterday's close. So it pushes up to the lower high, snaps down, and this is your short. So you enter into the short under yesterday's close with the confirms of the RSI, the MAC, the price action lower high, and some break of the VWAP. And I'm really big on VWAP. So the volume weighted average price had broken here, had a little decision make to do, but it did break down and we did set the lower tone. Now I play extensions on the volume weighted average price, the VWAP. So when it pushes into a high +2 and finds reputable resistance, I like when it comes back down to the purple regular VWAP, gets decision, breaks under the regular VWAP, and then goes to the -2. So the +2 is in the orange, -2 is in the blue. So another reason why you were able to take that short on the lower high under yesterday's close. Let's see how many points we would have got under this. So this broke down. We wanted to get to the 50. That was 30 points on the ES, and she went down 23. So regardless if it hit perfect target or not, that is a perfect trade call in my opinion, as the lower high persisted, lower low structure right here, and continues the downtrend all the way to yesterday's lows. And that's where it caught support. It didn't want to go any lower than yesterday's lows, which is this dashed blue line right here. So perfectly fine. The indicators now went into the bottom of the channel. We had a little pop at the end of the day, but regardless, if you would have shorted the lower high and you would have shorted the confirmation break here, RSI, MAC under yesterday's close, that would have gave you a monster trade. And of course, monster trades, you are taking profit, right? You're not just going to short here and wait for the 50 to hit. Oh, he said it was the 50 was going to hit. It's going to be perfect. Come on now. We're taking profit. We're real traders here. So under the yesterday's close, all the way down to the 100 EMA, POC, or even pre-market low. Those are all my favorite three. You would have netted a solid 12 to 14 point move. Let a winner ride, stays under the 100 EMA. We're still in the bottom channel of the RSI. The MAC is still crossed with deadly waves. There's no reason to cover yet. Comes down to the 200 SMA, which is in the peach right here, and then finally breaks into yesterday's lows. Now, that would have been some big bonus rounds, but regardless, there was a lot of meat left on the bone there, which we called 30 points available for under yesterday's close on the free Twitter call on X. Now, of course, we did 70 points, but I posted the wrong picture on NQ, so we're not going to call that one at all. So last but not least, what are other confirms that we use to trade today? Well, we're going to look at the anchors, like always, on the SPY 5-minute here. And the SPY 5-minute had untagged anchors. And these things were really, really, really good today, really strong. So what I did was I tagged an anchor from yesterday, and it's a very unique spot where we didn't get another tag of the anchor. So when I placed it on the last lower high here, you see the anchor calculate, start running away, and notice none of the price action during live trading hours tagged the Anchor View app. So it's a top down. So it starts top of the candle and it's running down. So the price action of the next day has a very big chance to hit this untagged Anchor View app. And we teach how to build these, set these up. My business partner is amazing at setting these up as well. Connor, check out the Boiler Room Trading YouTube for that. Now, when that came out, this was a big piece of the long again with the volatility index like we already covered. So this is what it looks like side to side from yesterday and flatlining here. So this whole support that it gathered right above that 50 SMA daily, it actually hit the 50 SMA daily. I think here in the pre or very close to, and then it shot back up very close to, I don't think it was an Excel tag, but regardless, the anchor was the third string magnet. So when an anchor is a magnet, right? And this was my short during the data today as well. Right here, we had 23 points off this volatile. I held my short through the old dump ski there, and it needed to come back down. And this is the first tag that the VWAP had received since yesterday. So it usually has a large reaction coming into the next day. So again, it becomes a magnet. This becomes a magnet. It wants to sit like this, create the magnet with the lightning bolts saying, come on, zap your way all the way up to this anchor because we can have a technical back test. Now, it's not something where, technical analysis is not something where you just close your eyes and hope for the best and have it magnet. You look for those confirmations. And as we went over some of those, we are seeing a lot of great confirmation here for that long. The MACD was separating and showing you large waves at 8 a.m. You've seen this little pop back up, flagged out, full rush to the top end. And I told everybody to go long out of the gate on ES into that anchor, as well as 522.7 cents. We had a couple different little zones there, but that is the volatility index giving us that huge long move out of the gate. And then let's take a peek at what I would have used for anchors for the rest of the day. Now, if this anchor is done, which it is because it has been tagged, what other anchors do we use here? Well, after we started coming down for the flush, right, from that low, we put a low anchor on, and this is the chase. So the anchor comes up and starts calculating after we get this candle populated early in the morning. The price action runs away from said anchor, finally breaks down, gives us some confirmation to the downside, aka the MACD washing and giving us the run. So if you were to get into the short, you'd have a great risk to reward on the breakdown here, where you could see the lower highs starting to crack and the MACD and the histogram on that back side there showing weakness. Now, where would your target be? That's what the anchor is for. So we put a bottom up anchor here into the upside for a target. So if you were shorting here on SPY, of course, we use ES as our trade metric. We use SPY to dictate that. Down to the anchor, you still would have had 15 points hopping into the breakdown of this. And then the first tag of that anchor, like I said, always generally a scalp. Got a long scalp on the bottom of that as well. Let's say you missed that trade. We have another afternoon trade. Let's make another anchor, for example. Let's use some top downs. So I'm going to use the high of day anchor now. Ooh, very hard, right? It comes back down. It's so silly because of how clean these can become on some days. Let's put this one back on, the lower here, because that's going to be important for the base. Now, excuse me, when this was met, we had found support, right? And this support came in right here at about 551.40 and popped that up. Now, we don't have anything on the trading view chart for support at that 551, but if we look here, it's the 100 EMA on Thinkorswim. So when we came back down into that, we then start stacking catalysts together. What is here for support? Do we have a moving average? Do we have a point of control volume? Do we have a large weekly level, a gap? What do we have, right? We stack the catalyst. Well, we have a 0 MAC line right here coming into 11 o'clock. So that's temporary support. A little bit of the structure on RSI broke the 50 and looks for a little pop back. The 100 EMA is support, which caused this pop. And that is what gave us, again, some conviction in the anchor. Okay. So when it found that support on the Thinkorswim with the 100 EMA, POC, so on and so forth, it popped back up. But where is the target? The anchor gives you an accessible target as it chases down its calculation. So it sets here, starts running, right? And then when it pops, hits, get out of the long, right? It's a perfect scalp. So even if you didn't hit the exact bottom on this and you waited for the breakup candle and you chased it over this low anchor. So here's the anchor on the low side. Let's say it broke through and you chase the breakout, which is fine in this scenario because it would break out, back test for confirmation like it did on the 5-minute, and then push to the next anchor. You can see it right here on the red candle in between. That is the confirmational back test. So let's say even you just did get in on the breakout here and then wanted to go to the anchor, it's still 7.5 points, which is very clean on ES. Last but not least, I would have moved this lower high anchor down. I would have kept chasing price action. And now this being the low volume short, what is our thesis? Where does that come from, right? Well, our big thesis and our big call was anything under yesterday's close, right? So as we formed a short here, yesterday's close coming down to almost the 50 SMA big target, anything under 552 and 6 cents here is short. Now let's take a look at this last anchor. And notably, it was a great trend anchor because it stayed under the anchor. So I would have had this being a short anchor as it came down, pop, hit, short again, because we're looking for that 50 SMA that was on the daily down here. We didn't quite get it, but what did it populate you with? Well, a first tag, and I'm super big on first tag metrics. So when you put a volume anchor here, when it tags, you wait, you be patient, then you play. You don't worry about any of the chop, a lot of the nonsense. You worry about the actual first tag. So this anchor is clean and clear, no tags, no nothing, and then boop, right into the tag level and produced another short down because the full thesis we called on X was down to the 50 SMA under yesterday's close. And as we travel under yesterday's close into this anchor down to the 50, we still had another 20 points on ES to play. Those were 4 really big scalps that we had called, or how I would have played them into the afternoon, and how we ended up making a huge green today. If you find any value in the videos here on the YouTube, stop in the description. There's some links for Apex. There's some links for Top Step for the funded accounts that we love to trade. And if you want to trade live with us, I do this stuff live every morning with my business partner. We have tons of talented members that come with that and help in the chat. So we do live screen share. We do everything at 8 a.m. Central, half hour before market open, all the way to about 11 a.m. Central, pending on what's going on for news and so on and so forth. We play the volatile open and then we make a trade plan for the rest of the day. So we live trade all this, make a trade plan for you guys like this, like we did in our chat, which we said, wait for that yesterday's close confirmation down, and it came true. So if that sounds good, we'll see you maybe in chat. If not, see you on the next vid.